And I'm very happy to welcome at this session the Senior General Pasqualino Fernandez, the General Secretary of the Council of Defense of Venezuela. The country is in the center of international attention, and actually we are very happy how it is perceived right at the spot. The floor is yours. Good afternoon. Before we start, I would like to convey welcome to the participants of our plenary session, and I'd like to welcome Mr. Lukyanov, who is brilliantly moderating our meeting, and I warmly welcome ministers Igor Olegovich, Deputy Head of the General Staff of Russian Federation, who very truthfully depicted and described the situation in Latin America, and esteemed ministers, men and women who are participating in this work of this forum. And I thank also Minister of Defense of Russian Federation, Sergei Shoigu, General of the Army, and all those who organized this forum. We thank that on behalf of Venezuela delegation. And I also convey welcomes and wishes of peace on behalf of the Bolivarian Republic, Nicolas Maduro, and on behalf of our Venezuela people from the members of the armed forces who are struggling for peace. As we all know, especially in military issues, that despite the lack of resources, we saw that the basic reasons of conflicts and there are several reasons, but today we see how these conflicts are aggravated, and I would like to give you some information on oil production in the world. In 2015, 90.5 millions of oil were produced a day, and the demand for the manufacturing of oil on a global level exceeded 95.7 million barrels a day. We were talking about the lack of 5.2 million barrels a day. That creates a disbalance, and this is the reality with the oil resources. Could be attributed to such vital resources as natural gas, mineral resources like potable water, and other products of biodiversity. And the United States and their allies, in order to ensure control and access to these resources of the planet, they continuously develop military doctrines which violate peace and international security, and our conference is dedicated to that. From the viewpoint of Venezuela, we, as victims, could remind some things about these doctrines, the theory of strategic reconnaissance, which was developed by Sherman Kent, the author about strategic reconnaissance, or strategic intelligence, collection of information, its processing, and the use when decision-making could ensure achievements of the goals, imperialistic goals, and this is the real policy. Or the theory of the so-called rogue states, which is used in the mass media in order to prove that those states where America has some strategic interest, they talk that these states are rogue states and there are different variants of their own. And we know about the doctrine of legitimate defense or fair war. These are the variants of the so-called theory or responsibility for defense. And the purpose is the elaboration of media standpoint, which says that the standard of living is not adequate for the population, and so using this humanitarian point, they justify the aggression or intervention into this country. That was said by the deputy head of the General Staff of Russian Federation, who said that even import of pharmaceuticals and foodstuffs is made very difficult. And you may also read in the books of Joseph Nye the sanctions, the boycott and blockade. This is the tough force, and soft force is various kinds of help and loans. And Lima Group, about which the Vice Admiral spoke, the American Congress supports this group. And they also have plans for intervention, or the theory of constructive chaos, which was developed by Zbigniew Brzezinski, politologist, speaks about manipulation of different tools, which make it difficult for the government to operate, and that was used against Bolivarian Republic of Venezuela when our electric generating company was affected in March of 2019, and that led to serious difficulties for our citizens. Or even one more theory about the so-called failed state, which was developed by Jen Sharp, and he speaks about nonviolent policy or about some so-called soft strikes against those governments that are not to the liking of the United States. Now I'd like to talk about why did Venezuela became in the center of this multifaceted war, and what is the real reason for the conflict, as you know really well. And this has been mentioned many times. Our country in the Western Hemisphere, where we are, has a wealth of natural resources, including oil reserves, more than 300 billion barrels worth of oil. In addition, we are ranked really high in terms of our deposits of hydrocarbons, such as natural gas. We have more than 200 trillion cubic meters of gas. That's our reserves. Venezuela, in the Bolivar states, we have an Orinoco ore belt, which is or streak. It has the square area of more than 120 square kilometers. 1,000 kilometers. It's more than Portugal or the Dominican Republic size-wise. In the region, we have huge deposits of gold, diamonds, and other strategically important natural resources. Our country is also characterized by the fact that we are very close to the empire, the United States, who would really want to rule our country. And of course, that is the reason why the United States is against Venezuela being part of the One Belt, One Road initiative, and that it has contacts and ties with the Chinese People's Republic and with Russia and with other fraternal nations such as Cuba and Bolivia. And these are our fraternal countries that we have very good relations with, that are sovereign relations, and that is why I'm asking myself this question. What can we do to guarantee peace and international security? I think this is one of the most important goals of this conference. And it seems to me that a moment has come for us to start creating blocks of reasonable states, sane states, that would respect basic principles of international relations on the planet. I think that it is also time to make use of our sense of reason and mutual respect to help our peoples respectively. The international economic situation asks us to build new geopolitics to establish peace and balance in the world. That's not the geopolitics we studied in the school. That was the politics of domineering. We remember those teachers that told us that those who owns the center of the territory owns the periphery, and those who own the seas own the entire world. No, we look at this differently in Venezuela, and our founding father, Simón Bolívar, spoke about a different policy, a policy aimed at ensuring peace and stability. Starting with the historic independence congresses, we have kept our mind on this. We remember this. We are fighting for international security. We thank you for inviting us to this conference. We would like to thank you all for participating. This is a major contribution to ensuring peace and security in the world. Thank you very much.